opted out of the All-Star game. Send us your best tweets to hashtag the starters. We'll hear from you later.
All right, get those tweets in. We got a fun show tonight. We will get into DeMarcus Cousins' season-ending injury. We got a new batch of weekend whoopsies. We got Lee's very solid play. But we start with some breaking news. We had one heck of a Woj bomb.
We got ourselves a trade!
Just minutes be coming on live here. According to ESPN, the Clippers have agreed to trade Blake Griffin to the Pistons. And the Clippers will receive Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Boban Marjanovic, a first-round pick, a second-round pick. You see going back there with Blake. Reportedly, again, this is just happening, Willie Reed and Bryce Johnson. Yeah, this just happened, just came out of left field a little bit. I mean, earlier in the day, we saw that Avery Bradley was a possibility to be traded. Pittsburgh was looking to move him, but this Blake deal out of left field. What's your initial reaction to this?
I think the Clips did great. They signed Blake Griffin to a 5-year deal in the offseason, an entirely new front office, and they decide, well, this isn't really working out with DeAndre Jordan, but we can go get a great package for him. Now they're just going to blow it up and basically say, all right, that Blake signing turns into a great package that, yeah, they didn't even need to pay Blake Griffin, more than half a year's salary on that 5-year deal that everyone questioned. I think it works out fantastic for them.
And they paid him that extra year too because of their injury risk, and Blake gave up his no-trade clause apparently. So this basically was what the Clippers, I think, had in the back of their mind. They're thinking, we'll sign him to the max deal, see how things go. He's still a young enough guy that we can probably get a pretty good return in back for him.
They did.
And if you look at the Pistons, though, their season started off so well. It's fallen apart completely.
Yeah.
They needed to shake things up, so they get rid of Tobias Harris, who was in the All-Star conversation. Avery Bradley, that hasn't worked out as well. So not a bad deal for both teams right now.
Yeah, but what are the Pistons doing here, though? They got a 4-5 in Blake and Andre Drummond. It didn't really work in Los Angeles. Blake's not a number.
It didn't work. I mean, they won 60 games a few times. They were a really
Chris
good
Paul
team.
was there. They
Yeah,
don't have a
that's
Chris
absolutely
Paul.
true. But Blake is used to playing with a traditional big man, we'll say.
Yeah.
DeAndre Jordan and Andre Drummond kind of play the same way. I think the Pistons look at it as we traded Ersan Ilyasova and Brandon Jennings expiring contracts for Tobias Harris, and now we get 5 years of Blake Griffin. 5 years of Blake Griffin now, maybe not the same as 5 years ago, but in general, the guy's a huge name, and they've got him under contract for 5 years in a new arena that we've seen people are not filling up.
Exactly right.
Now you got Blake Griffin. He's exciting. I'm still a Blake Griffin fan. I think he can still be an all-NBA level talent. I think this is a pretty good trade for both teams,
And
honestly.
they got the best player in the deal, which is what we always talk about. I mean, if you are the Clippers, they get back Bradley, who's expiring. Who knows what's going to happen there? Tobias Harris is a good player, but he's not Blake Griffin. So the Clippers are obviously looking to start again. If you're the Pistons, they're like, we need a name. It's not a free agent destination either, Detroit. We've got to remember. So now they get a marquee name in that arena and a player who, he does have some injury concerns, but it's still, best Blake is still a very, very good player and an all-star caliber player.
He is a very good player, but I think they still need another perimeter guy. Do you think that Little Caesars Arena is filling in to see a Blake and Andre Drummond team that's going to win what?
More than Tobias Harris and Avery Bradley, I'm sure.
Yeah, but you've signed this. I agree with that, but now you've got a guy for another 4.5 years. I mean, it's a lot of bucks.
It is a lot of bucks. Yeah, I would say they're not done yet. I would say they're still trying to find other pieces because, as we mentioned, their season started off great. They were 14-6. They're now 22-26.
Yeah.
Still in the playoff hunt, mainly because they're in the Eastern Conference. So this gives them an improved roster, an improved team. But I would say Stan Van Gundy and that ownership there are looking to make a few more moves.
Is this a possible problem of having a coach who is also the same GM, and I'm talking about Stan Van Gundy. He's the coach of the team, but he's also trying, in theory, to think long-term. And there's maybe a conflict of interest here. Because you guys, what you're saying here is like, yeah, the Pistons are like grasping at straws here to maybe try and make a playoff race, try and get people in the seats. But then when you're countering it with like, is Blake Griffin a long-term plan that you want to hitch your wagon to, especially with the injuries?
I mean, I think they have a lot of faith in Reggie Jackson being their point guard. It's easy to forget that he's been out for a very long period of time here, and that's why they've fallen apart from that 14-6 start. So that's who they have a ton of faith in. I mean, you look at the Clippers and you watch Lou Williams basically run the show for fourth quarters here. And that's what Reggie Jackson is going to be doing a lot of, even with Blake on the floor.
Yeah, and I wonder what kind of plan the Pistons really had in place otherwise. You're going forward with Reggie, Toby, and Andre Drummond. That's a fine team. Maybe you can win 50 games in a good year in the East. At least now you have a little bit higher ceiling. I think putting Blake Griffin, you hope he stays healthy. Who knows if that's going to happen? That's definitely been a problem. But if he is able to stay healthy and he's able to mesh with Andre Drummond, kind of the way he was with DeAndre Jordan, I think they can be a better team now with Blake alongside those guys rather than Tobias Harris.
Getting back to your point, though, this was Stan Van Gundy's team that he built. And so now he's trying to start all over again. So he's made some moves that haven't worked out. Now he's gone for the home run shot and hoping that he's gambling that Blake Griffin will stay healthy for one, and he will be an all-star caliber player for the remaining 4.5 years on that contract. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then they are stuck with a pretty hefty contract for a guy who his best, most athletic years may be behind him already.
Yeah, on the other side, that's exactly what happened in Los Angeles, but they separated those duties for Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers had both duties this offseason. It sure seems like, even though it looked like, you know, they were going forward with Blake Griffin as a long-term deal, they basically said that. They basically said, we're blowing this baby up, but we're not telling anyone right now. I mean, we'll see in 4 months they made this decision after seeing, you know, Blake for half a season as their quote-unquote #1 guy.
Yeah, what was shocking with the Clips, I think, is we thought, well, maybe it's DeAndre that gets moved, or lose Ballin. Maybe someone wants to take a flyer on him, and they look to trade him. And here it is, the guy they signed to a 5-year, $171 million contract. But that's the thing. When it happened at the time, I remember us going, that doesn't mean he's not going to be moved. This doesn't mean, like, well, the Clippers are going with Blake for the next 5 years. We've seen it happen before. Nene comes to mind back when he signed a sort of a bigger deal. I know it was a bigger deal at the time there, back with the Nuggets. They traded him. I mean, this can happen here, but still a shocker, a big shocker here, especially to the team he's going to. I think that's the other part. Blake Griffin is an LA guy. There was no trade clause in his contract. Is he excited about this? Is he excited to go to the East and go play with the Pistons?
There's a lot of cars in Detroit to jump over. I think that could be good. Maybe this would be good for the auto industry, a guy who's just flying over cars. But I think that Blake in the East, he probably would be even more in the All-Star mix. There's definitely a chance that he's going to can get back to the level he was playing at before just because he's playing in the Eastern Conference. I think that that's a plus for him, but it'll be weird seeing him playing in the East, that's for sure.
You'd think that that team is a playoff lock because you mentioned he is, those numbers that he's putting up, they should be all-star numbers. It's easy to overlook his numbers. Yeah. They're amazing. Yeah. They are still phenomenal. He was just injured this year.
Blake Griffin reportedly headed to the Detroit Pistons, just happening here. We'll obviously talk about it on tomorrow morning's Twitter show in greater detail. We got to take a break.